Armored transports cut across a desolate, forgotten landscape. Inside, a group of well-dressed civilians ride in tense silence. A guard's voice cuts through, laying down the rules for their arrival. They are warned to be cautious and not to provoke the prisoners. A cheerful young woman named Lala decides to break the ice. She introduces herself to Dante Kang, a man with a stoic expression. It turns out they're both science teachers, a strange coincidence. Others join in, including an ethics teacher whose class is mandatory. Go figure. The tension finally breaks as the teachers get to know each other. But one man's face remains grim, wondering how they all ended up here. Their destination is revealed: Fogland, the world's largest prison, also known as Hell. Lala tries to laugh it off, questioning what could possibly go wrong in a prison, but the grim-faced teacher remains suspicious, asking if they know the prison's origin. He recounts the story of a massive meteorite that crashed here 50 years ago. And just 5 years after that cataclysmic event, something changed. The world's powers united to build a massive prison directly over the impact crater. The others get excited, recalling online urban legends about aliens and strange life forms. The grim teacher adds that one scholar claimed Fogland had opened the gates of hell. Another man smirks, suggesting their new students might actually be monsters. The absurd theory is enough to make even the stoic Dante Kang crack a smile. One teacher scoffs at the idea, questioning if educators truly believe such nonsense. But Dante Kang remains firm, believing everyone has a right to learn. His colleague presses him, reminding him these are the world's worst criminals. To Dante, they're not monsters, just people who lack proper education. The other teachers can only sigh, thinking how naive our boy seems. Suddenly, a guard's voice cuts in. They're just 5 minutes from Fogland. The cheerful Lala is now frozen in terror as reality crashes down. The first gate groans open, and the faces of the teachers are painted with dread. Even Dante's stoic resolve begins to crack as they approach their destination. This is Fogland, the largest and most infamous prison on the entire planet. Dante steels himself, remembering why he came, to teach the prisoners. A surprisingly cheerful banner welcomes them to their new workplace. Strict orders are given: no photography, and all personal items will be confiscated. They begin to understand the prison's name as fog obscures their view. Visibility is near zero, with the prison structures lost in the haze. It finally clicks why it's called Fogland, as a voice confirms they're heading to Gate 2. A heavily armed guard relays the next steps for their safety. They try to convince themselves it's all just a scare tactic. Sure it is. Escorted by guards, they march deeper into the prison, waved on by the staff. A single resolute step is taken, crossing the threshold into the unknown. Dante tries to convince himself that there's nothing to be afraid of. He reasons that this is just another place where people live. But their classroom is a sterile white box, seen from behind a thick window. Dante sits at his post, utterly bewildered by the strange setup. Another teacher realizes this is an isolation classroom, calling it excessive. He taps the reinforced glass, questioning how they're supposed to teach. A guard's sudden appearance at a heavy door startles him. The announcement is made: the prisoners will be entering now. A final, chilling order is given: do not leave your seat no matter what. Dante swallows hard, the weight of the situation finally sinking in. The heavy steel door groans, its locks disengaging with a final thud. It swings inward, revealing the sterile white classroom beyond. And then, the students are marched in, a chained procession of nightmares. Dante's idealistic resolve shatters in an instant. One prisoner, with glowing eyes and distorted features, presses against the glass. Another follows, its gaze burning with an unsettling intensity. A hulking beast of a man grins, recognizing what he sees on the other side. He questions if they're even human, as a guard forces him into a seat. Dante's mind races, trying to process the impossible sight before him. He's left wondering how you're supposed to teach, whatever these things are. The grim teacher's words now echo with terrifying clarity in Dante's mind. He tries to shake it off, desperately telling himself this is all just nonsense. His own naive belief flashes before his eyes. People live here, after all. Followed by his most idealistic claim that they just lacked education. But Dante steels his nerves, adjusts his tie, and introduces himself to the class. He decides to start with a professional icebreaker. Because of course he does. He asks his new students why science is supposedly the most popular class. Dante even cracks a joke about them wanting to build a rocket to escape. His attempt at humor is met with a chilling, awkward silence, until one of the creatures breaks into a horrifying, manic laugh. The creature finds the stuffy atmosphere amusing, his laughter echoing in the room. Unfazed, Dante pivots, deciding to start with a simpler, more engaging topic. He presents his first lesson, getting closer to nature, holding up a strange plant. He instructs the prisoners to look at the items now sitting on their desks. Each one has been given a glass of water with a single sweet potato inside. His grand plan is to teach them how to grow a plant, a lesson for children. He believes these hardened criminals never had a chance to learn such simple things. Though it may seem trivial, he hopes watching it grow will spark something within them. By nurturing a small plant, they might finally learn the value of life itself. He looks them in the eye, acknowledging their past but demanding they learn today. He compares them to the sweet potato, a symbol of infinite potential. With a hopeful smile, Dante announces their very first group project, but his metaphor is met with a moment of stunned, confused silence. One prisoner erupts in fury, taking the comparison as a grave insult. Dante frantically tries to explain, his eloquent speech falling apart. The prisoner responds by eating the lesson plan. Our boy can only watch, utterly speechless at this turn of events. Soon, the entire class joins in, happily devouring their science projects. He panics, shouting that they were supposed to grow them, not eat them. Defeated, Dante collapses, wondering what kind of students he's dealing with. Just as he's about to give up, a voice calls out from the other side. The masked prisoner cuts him off, demanding to know how to make fog. Dante is completely lost, repeating the strange request. He tries to pivot, connecting their question to the prison's famous fog. But the prisoner isn't interested in a weather lesson, mocking the scientist. Our boy corrects him, still thinking this is all just a dark joke about escaping. His misunderstanding is met with a fist slamming into the reinforced glass. A strange blue energy crackles around the point of impact. The masked prisoner's eyes glow with the same power, the barrier nearly giving way. And with that, Dante's last shred of composure shatters into a scream of terror. The masked prisoner's voice is cold, questioning if Dante thinks this is a game. Dante screams into his comms, frantically reporting the impossible breach. He can't believe it, questioning how the reinforced glass could possibly break. Before he can process it, the door to the teacher's room bursts open. A voice over the comms declares a code Omega as guards storm in. An entire tactical squad swarms the observation room, weapons raised. Their commander looks directly at Dante, giving him a single sharp order to get down. The next command is chillingly simple: eliminate every single prisoner. Without hesitation, the guards open fire through the glass, tearing the classroom apart. A hail of gunfire erupts, turning the lesson on life into a lesson on death. Dante screams, clutching his head as the world descends into violent chaos. The reinforced glass offers no protection, shattering under a storm of bullets. He throws himself against the door, desperately trying to stop the massacre. The commander's voice is chillingly calm, ordering him to wait for the executions to finish. Dante can't believe it, questioning how they could just kill all these people. A guard carries out the order point blank as the commander justifies the brutality. But one prisoner, number 0901, just grins as he grabs the barrel of the gun. Our boy can only watch in abject terror, his idealism finally dead and buried. The prisoner retaliates with shocking force, ending the guard in a spray of red, and through the comms a calm voice cuts through the carnage, ready to introduce himself. The voice introduces himself as the warden of this hellish place. He calmly informs Dante that these monsters are his new neighbors. Dante can only gasp, his mind completely shattered by the revelation. Amidst the carnage, the masked prisoner sits calmly at his desk. Our boy is completely overwhelmed, the reality of Fogland crashing down. He holds the sweet potato, a bizarrely peaceful sight in a room of death. Defeated, Dante slumps to the floor, the fight completely gone from him. A single, glowing eye peers from behind the mask of prisoner 0182. The scene shifts to a dark, concrete room with a single whirring fan. And on the floor lies Dante, his first day ending in total collapse. But he's not alone. A figure in an orange jumpsuit squats in the shadows. Dante slowly awakens, the horrors of his first day still fresh in his mind. His eyes adjust to the gloom, focusing on his new and unwelcome roommate. He sits up, realizing he's sharing a cell with one of the very monsters he was meant to teach. It's the masked prisoner, his single glowing eye fixed on the terrified teacher. Dante's mind reels, struggling to process this impossible turn of events. He finally musters the courage to ask the silent figure who he is. But the words catch in his throat, coming out as a panicked stammer. "Welcome to your new home, Dante. Hope you don't mind the open-plan bathroom." The heavy steel door confirms the truth. He's no longer just a teacher here. Dante frantically demands to know where he is, and his cellmate calmly replies, "My house." Stunned by the bizarre answer, Dante's confusion turns to a desperate need for answers. He stares at prisoner 0182, the reality of his situation crashing down on him. His mind races back, trying to make sense of the chaos that landed him here. He remembers the guard's final fatal order to open fire on the inmates. But the plan backfired spectacularly as the guards were swiftly overpowered. The classroom became a scene of utter devastation as the inmates turned the tables. Overwhelmed by the horror, Dante's last memory is of collapsing in the dark. Back in the grimy cell, his mysterious roommate moves with an unsettling calm. The teacher asks the prisoner if they were really inside a prison. Dante confronts his cellmate, demanding to know if he's responsible for this. The horrifying possibility dawns on him. This prisoner brought him here. But the creature's focus is on one thing: the sweet potato from class. Our boy's expression says it all. He is completely and utterly lost. The masked man's request is shockingly simple: teach him how to grow it. Dante is left speechless as the monster pleads for a gardening lesson. He remembers his own words, believing their evil was just ignorance, but he now understands that his logic was built on a fragile foundation. His entire philosophy shatters, unable to comprehend this level of absurdity. And so, Dante finally snaps, furious he was thrown into hell over a root vegetable. His mind finally cracks, admitting the ethics teacher was right all along. He's convinced these things kill without reason, and that he's next on the list. His panicked gaze lands on his cellmate, noticing something hidden in his hand. His mind races through the worst possibilities: a gun, a knife, any kind of weapon. Fueled by pure terror, Dante decides he has to make a move. With nothing left to lose, he throws himself at the masked prisoner. The prisoner falls back, revealing the weapon he was hiding. Dante grabs his wrist, pinning him down with surprising strength. He manages to subdue him, thinking this one is nothing like the monsters in class. He tells himself to stay calm, believing he can actually handle this one prisoner. His mind is set on one goal: take the weapon from the prisoner's right hand. But as he twists the limb, something gives way with an unnatural tear. Dante's blood runs cold as he realizes the entire arm has just come off. The detached limb calmly reattaches itself to its owner. Okay, definitely not human. The prisoner apologizes for the violence, but not without a hint of blame. He points out that Dante's own stupidity got him kidnapped inside a prison. He's not wrong. And after all that, the creature still just wants to know how to grow a sweet potato. But Dante has had enough, flatly refusing to teach someone so brainless. He tells the prisoner to find another meal, declaring that he's leaving this cell. Our boy now stands at the door trying to figure out the prison's schedule. Good luck with that. Dante peers through the slot, convinced security is searching for him. But what he sees on the other side leaves him utterly stunned. There's nothing out there but the prison's signature, impenetrable fog. He rattles the door, screaming for help, but his cries are swallowed by the silence. And then, with a heavy groan, the door simply swings open on its own. Dante stares in disbelief, questioning if this is some kind of trap. He cautiously steps out, wondering why a cell in hell would be unlocked. He finds himself on a desolate walkway, surrounded by a maze of concrete and mist. The sheer impossible scale of his new home begins to dawn on him. This isn't just a prison, it's a sprawling, endless city of despair. His mind finally breaks, screaming that this can't possibly be a prison. He turns on his cellmate, demanding to know where he's been taken. But his frantic questions are cut short as a hand clamps over his mouth. The masked prisoner appears behind him, clearly tired of all the yelling. His advice is chillingly simple: you can't leave, so just shut up and live. But Dante looks down at the endless slum, questioning how anyone could survive here. He grabs the prisoner, insisting he's a law-abiding citizen, not a monster. He declares that he's different from society's garbage. His superiority complex is still intact, I see. As he speaks, a vision of a hulking beast appears behind his cellmate. But the masked prisoner just looks confused, almost hurt by Dante's words. The hulking figure tenses, its massive chest heaving with silent rage. Its strange hooded face stares down, eyes glowing with cold menace. Dante frantically tries to clarify his insult wasn't for his cellmate. But the masked prisoner gets in his face, aggressively asking what he's looking at. The hulking beast winds up, flexing an arm the size of Dante's entire torso. A fist flies through the air, connecting with a sickening, bloody impact. And our boy is sent crashing to the ground, bruised and broken. So much for that superiority complex. The masked prisoner sits calmly over Dante's body, having warned him to be quiet. He then laments that his own clothes are now gone, a truly bizarre complaint. Dante finally comes to, screaming at his cellmate for picking a fight with a monster. Dante screams that the monster who attacked him is missing an entire arm. His cellmate looks down, asking if maybe he was a little too harsh. Without another word, the prisoner begins to unbutton his orange jumpsuit. Dante's mind jumps to the worst conclusion, and he starts screaming apologies. He throws the jumpsuit to the floor, ignoring Dante's frantic cries. Our boy can only watch in utter confusion as the prisoner lies down. The prisoner reveals a chiseled physique and 2 arms, ordering Dante to wear the jumpsuit. Dante's mind struggles to comprehend what he's seeing. He stares at the impossible sight, questioning if this is some kind of sick joke. Realizing he should probably be more careful, Dante scrambles into the orange jumpsuit. He hesitates, worried that a rescue team won't recognize him in prison garb. But his cellmate crushes that hope, informing him that no one is coming. The only rule here is to not stand out, a grim lesson for our teacher. His cellmate then pulls a tattered brown uniform from a pile of trash. Now dressed in rags and a bag, he announces it's time to eat. Dinner and a show, I guess. Dante is less than impressed by his cellmate's fashion choices. Suddenly a thought strikes him, his eyes widening in a flash of hope. He realizes mealtime means the guards will come, a chance to explain everything. But outside, a strange melodic hum echoes through the desolate prison city. The sound seems to fill the empty streets, a bizarre and unsettling melody. Elsewhere, a hulking prisoner gleefully tries on Dante's stolen suit. His hooded accomplice laments not stealing the teacher's cool glasses as well. He identifies the strange melody with a single word, honey. Suddenly, a new figure appears, asking where the hooded man got his outfit. The suit-stealing prisoner lets out a scream of absolute terror. He prostrates himself on the ground, calling the newcomer boss. The hooded man reports that a new nerd with glasses has just arrived in their territory. The boss seems intrigued, confirming the newcomer's location. He proudly explains that he took the fancy clothes right off the new arrival. His reward is a blade driven straight through his skull, leaving him utterly confused. The blade plunges deep, a brutal end for a simple fashion crime. The boss stands over the bodies, his message delivered with absolute finality. Splattered in their blood, he calmly announces he's finally found his target. A chilling grin spreads across his face as he holds his blood-soaked weapon. And with a single word, he reveals he knows exactly who Dante is. Meanwhile, the prisoners gather in a concrete jungle for their daily meal. Strange, camouflaged figures peer from the shadows, their forms barely human. Their eyes burn with the hunger of starving beasts, watching every move. Dante can only stare in horror, wondering what kind of creatures he's among. He follows his cellmate through the crowd, questioning if they're even human at all. A crow with a single glowing eye watches over this forgotten world. It perches atop a grim monument to Fogland's true nature. Bloodstains and bodies on spikes line the walkways. This wasn't a prison. It was a jungle where only the strong survive. A sprawling, lawless city built on despair and shrouded in mist. Dante turns to his cellmate, his voice trembling with disbelief. He points out the chaos, the freedom, the complete lack of guards. He then gestures to the bodies, hoping they're just festive decorations. Our boy grabs his guide, questioning how a UN facility could become this hell. But the masked prisoner just tells him to lower his voice before he gets them killed. Dante's mind races, questioning his own judgment for listening to this creature. He remembers the glowing eyes from the classroom, realizing his cellmate is one of them. A hand on his shoulder confirms his fears. In this place, he can trust no one. They arrive at the Chow Hall, a ramshackle structure that looks more like a war zone canteen. Inside, the scene is surprisingly orderly, a sea of orange jumpsuits at mealtime. The inmates sit at their tables, a tense and quiet routine unfolding. Dante is taken aback. For a lawless hellscape, it seems almost civilized. He follows the line, realizing that if there's food, there must be someone in charge. And in that moment, a flicker of hope ignites in his eyes. He sees it, a guard's uniform, proof that authority still exists in this madhouse. A man in a guard's uniform, his face hidden in shadow, a beacon of order in this chaotic world. Dante's eyes widen with relief, convinced his salvation is finally at hand. He tells himself to stay calm, to act civilized and prove he doesn't belong here. While his cellmate is focused on getting extra ham, Dante prepares his grand speech. Priorities, I guess. The creature is waved on, and now it's Dante's turn to face his potential rescuer. He steps forward, his voice trembling as he asks the man if he's a guard. The man's stoic expression confirms it, a silent affirmation of his authority. Dante immediately introduces himself, desperately explaining he's a teacher named Kang Dante. He points a finger at his cellmate, accusing him of being the one who kidnapped him during the riot. He urges the guard to call for help, certain that everyone is looking for the missing teacher. But the officer's only response is a slow trickle of drool from his lips. Dante's hope instantly curdles into a cold, dawning horror, because the man in the uniform has the dead, vacant eyes of a complete madman. Before Dante can even process this, the guard raises his serving ladle. His grand plea for rescue is answered with a smack and an order to move along. He's handed a tray of something that generously could be called food. Defeated, he sits with his cellmate, who happily digs in, completely unfazed. Dante's mind races, trying to make sense of the man's unhinged gaze. But he saw the uniform, the badge. It had to be a real guard, right? Yet as he scans the room, he realizes there are no other officers in sight. A cold dread washes over Dante as he realizes something is seriously wrong. The truth hits him with the force of a physical blow. He is completely screwed. He sees his future stretching out before him, an eternity trapped in this hell. And he remembers his cellmate's grim warning that no one would ever come for him. With a flicker of desperation, he turns to the masked prisoner, calling him student. A manic grin spreads across his face as he brings up the one thing this creature wants: sweet potatoes. With all other options gone, Dante turns to his last resort. He offers to teach the prisoner everything he knows about growing the plant, but in exchange, the creature has to help him escape this nightmare. Our boy believes he's found his ticket out, planning to exploit what he sees as the prisoner's simple-mindedness. Dante puts on his most charming smile, ready to close the deal with his new student. But his cellmate's response cuts right through the act, questioning if Dante thinks he's an idiot. Dante backpedals, frantically trying to explain his flawless, airtight logic. It's not going well. The prisoner listens in silence, his expression unreadable behind the mask. And then he lays out the only path to freedom: become the supreme leader of Fogland. Dante can only repeat the absurd title, trying to grasp what it even means. His cellmate immediately crushes the idea, adding that a guy like Dante wouldn't last a day. But a horrifying realization dawns on Dante. This is the only way to contact the outside. The prisoner holds up a piece of food, delivering a grim ultimatum: ascend or fall. Dante demands a straight answer, but his cellmate simply tells him to be quiet. Dante finally accepts that his cellmate has no intention of helping him. With a surge of anger, he slams his hand on the table and stands. He declares that if his cellmate won't help, he'll find his own way out. He even tries to pull the "My family is important" card. Bold move, Cotton. But as he storms off, a desperate voice suddenly calls out for a teacher. He turns in shock as the voice calls out his full name, Mr. Kang. At the entrance to the Chow Hall, a crowd of prisoners has gathered. A wave of relief washes over him. He's convinced the rescue team is here. But his cellmate just watches as the other prisoners call out to the newcomers. Overjoyed, Dante runs toward the entrance, screaming for his saviors to find him. He screams his name and profession, a desperate plea to the figures in the doorway. Tears stream down his face as he cries out, certain his ordeal is finally over. But the crowd parts, revealing the newcomers are just more prisoners. And his hope shatters as he comes face to face with his former students. The one in the lead greets him with a smile that could cut glass. Dante's world collapses, the color draining from his face in an instant. The impossibly tall prisoner leans down, greeting him like an old friend. They casually remind him of the sweet potato class, as if it were yesterday. Looks like that lesson plan is coming back to haunt him. Dante can only stammer in agreement, his mind struggling to catch up. Because a face like that is something you could never, ever forget. Dante remembers the first time he saw this impossibly large figure. He recalls the sheer, unnatural breadth of the man's shoulders. The other inmates whisper in awe, calling him Shoulder Hyung. Dante realizes this is one of the infamous sick shoulders. Looks like this prison has a student council. The prisoner, known as the Tower, reveals a terrifying, inhuman grin. And then the memory of the classroom massacre comes flooding back. He remembers exactly how this man dealt with the security guards. The tactical squad had opened fire, intending to kill them all. A brutal memory of a prisoner's head exploding in a spray of red. But the Tower had not only survived, he'd turned the tables on his executioners. He remembers the prisoner's blood-soaked grin, questioning the guards' lack of manners. If they were going to bring guns to a lesson, then all bets were off. He caught the barrel of a rifle between his teeth, a truly impossible feat. With the weapon clamped in his jaw, he prepared to retaliate with inhuman force. And in the blink of an eye, the classroom erupted into a bloodbath. He used their own weapon against them, cutting down the entire squad in one move. The memory forces Dante to his knees, his body trembling with fear. He looks up at the monster before him, asking why he was being hunted. The tower's answer is chillingly simple. It's time to continue their lesson. But he's no longer interested in sweet potatoes. He wants a real lesson this time. The tower grins maniacally, presenting 3 glowing blue orbs as the subject of their lesson. The other prisoners erupt into a frenzy, chanting the word fog with glowing eyes. Dante can only stare, completely lost as the prisoners celebrate this strange, glowing substance. And then, a memory clicks into place for our terrified teacher. He remembers his cellmate's strange, aggressive demand back in the classroom. He finally connects the word fog to these bizarre, pulsating blue lumps. He asks what it is, but the tower seems genuinely shocked by his ignorance. The monster grabs him, furious that a science teacher could be so clueless about, well, whatever this is. Dante frantically explains he's never seen anything like it, that this isn't part of any curriculum. But the tower reveals that all 6 shoulders gathered just to learn about the fog from him. The horrifying truth sinks in. They didn't just find him, they specifically brought him here. But the tower just brushes off his confusion, grabbing him by the jumpsuit. He shoves the glowing orb towards Dante's mouth, deciding the lesson will start now. Our boy can only stare at the strange, pulsating object, his mind blank with terror. The lesson begins with a forced feeding as the orb is shoved past his gritted teeth. The other prisoners watch with hungry, vacant eyes, drooling like a pack of ghouls. In a final desperate act, Dante shoves the giant away, sending the orbs flying. The glowing orbs bounce across the floor, and the entire Chow hall goes silent. Every eye in the room, glowing with an unnatural light, is now fixed on our boy. He's really done it now. An old prisoner looks down at the wasted fog, his face a mask of utter despair. The prisoners descend like a pack of wolves, scrambling for the fallen orbs. Dante can only watch in horror, realizing the gravity of his mistake. The Chow hall erupts into a violent free-for-all over the precious resource. The tower calmly explains that in this place, everyone desires the fog. He calls it a blessing from the gods, a substance more valuable than gold. One old man manages to swallow a piece, and the crowd turns on him in fury. But the old man stands tall, a strange blue energy radiating from his body. The other prisoners, driven by desperation, begin to tear him apart. They rip into his flesh, trying to consume the fog he now embodies. Yet through the carnage, the old man wears a look of pure, blissful peace. This place is officially insane. A long-haired prisoner with a terrifying grin mocks the chaos around them. He explains that with more fog, one can gain incredible, almost divine power. The tower reveals the blue glow in his own mouth, asking if Dante is interested. Dante's teeth chatter, the same blue energy now coursing through his own body. His system violently rejects the substance as he collapses, vomiting onto the floor. Broken and defeated, our boy can only weep, begging to be sent home. The tower looms over him, completely unimpressed by his pleas for freedom. Dante screams that he's just a teacher, not a scientist who can create this stuff. The long-haired prisoner argues, citing a TV drama as his primary source. Solid research. Dante finally snaps, screaming that he's just a high school teacher, not a genius. The long-haired prisoner looms over him, his patience finally snapping. He cuts through Dante's excuses, asking if he's simply incompetent. His hopes crumble. He thought finding the teacher was his ticket to becoming the supreme leader. In a fit of rage, he shoves a fog-infused blade down his own throat. The blue energy spills from his mouth as he consumes its strange power. He pulls the weapon free, declaring Dante a completely useless find. The harsh words trigger a painful memory of being called worthless. He remembers his parents, their glowing eyes filled with academic disappointment. They berated him for staining the family name, because apparently teaching is for peasants. And a younger Dante quietly asks what's so wrong with being a teacher after all. The memory cuts to his family, coldly discussing his 6 years of academic failure. Their words echo in his mind, a cruel reminder to always know his place. His father was a famous figure, a man respected by the entire world. His mother, a brilliant legal mind with a doctorate in law. Even his brother was a prodigy, a leader in his field at a young age. A family of winners, apparently. In his own classroom, Dante was someone, a respected and admired teacher. But at home, he was nothing, forced to kneel before his family's judgment. The memory of a silent, suffocating dinner table flashes before his eyes. His father had questioned the strange job offer from an international prison, and his brother had explained it all with a smug smile, a UN teaching post with great pay. His brother had been thrilled, calling Fogland an awesome place for the world's craziest people. But even then, Dante's response was the same. People live there, after all. His mother had questioned the decision, wondering why he had to go so far. And his father, a figure of pure intimidation, had demanded to know his reasons. Dante could only sweat, completely lost as to why they were so against it. He tried to explain his philosophy, that giving people a chance to learn was a noble cause. His brother's response was a spray of red wine, a sudden burst of mockery. He'd played it off as a joke, a fake apology for spilling his drink. What a supportive family. But then the smile vanished, replaced by a cold lecture on being unprofessional. His brother saw right through him, calling his choice a pathetic attempt to be recognized. His brother accuses him of faking a noble mission just to feel important. He claims Dante is just using strange choices to hide his own incompetence. Dante can only listen as his brother feigns concern for his foolishness. His father's voice cuts in, calling his idealism nothing but reckless insecurity, and that acting on such feelings is simply proof of his own stupidity. In his memory, Dante can only agree with their brutal assessment. He accepts the crushing truth that his brother was right all along. The memory breaks, and back in the present, Dante screams that he was a fool, and for that foolish choice, the long-haired prisoner delivers his judgment. Dante is sent flying, convinced that this is where his story finally ends. His attacker's voice echoes, cursing this miserable, ugly place. He continues, blaming his fate on a simple lack of learning. But the voice is Dante's, accepting that he was the real failure all along. Just as the blade falls, a simple fork appears, blocking the fatal blow. The tines of the fork hold strong, dripping with the attacker's blood. His cellmate sends the long-haired prisoner flying with a brutal counter. He slams the man's head into a concrete pillar with terrifying force. Dante can only watch, splattered in blood, as his cellmate takes control. The long-haired prisoner screams as his attacker prepares to deliver the final blow. He rages, questioning his opponent's power as a hand closes over his face. His cellmate's arm transforms into a flurry of shadowy whip-like tendrils. The long-haired prisoner's eyes widen in agony, his own power useless. Dante watches the brutal display, his face a mask of blood-splattered terror. The masked prisoner lands, his glowing eyes fixed on his defeated opponent. The Chow hall is left a bloody ruin, littered with the bodies of the fallen. His cellmate stands over the carnage, a massive tattoo covering his back. Elsewhere, a new crew of prisoners with glowing eyes gathers around motorcycles. Their leader, a hulking man with a skull tattoo, announces their arrival in Tofu Village. Seriously, Tofu Village. With a roar of engines, the gang tears through the desolate prison streets. They ride deeper into the concrete jungle, disappearing into the endless mist. Dante and his cellmate walk away from the carnage, a strange new partnership forming. They carry heavy sacks, and Dante struggles under the weight, asking what's inside. Finally asking for a name, Dante is given a strange and unsettling answer: one arm. Dante can't believe it, but his cellmate confirms it's the only name he goes by. Finding the name uncivilized, Dante decides to stick with the prisoner number instead. He presses on, questioning the mask, his crimes, and how he ended up in this hell. The prisoner's answer is cryptic and chilling, that he was always here. Dante is left completely baffled by the impossible statement. His cellmate turns the tables, questioning why a teacher asks so many questions. He's told he talks too much and is too loud, finally being ordered to just shut up. The first rule of Fogland Club, I guess. The sun beats down on the desolate ruins of the prison city. Dante's dress shoes finally come to a halt on the cracked concrete. He collapses to the ground, completely out of energy and complaining of hunger. After 2 hours of walking in circles, he desperately asks how far the exit is. His guide's response is a casual admission that he has no idea where they're going. Dante erupts, furious that they've been wandering aimlessly this entire time. He throws a full-blown tantrum demanding food or a piggyback ride. He's not above a little blackmail. But his cellmate responds by also collapsing dramatically onto the ground. Dante can only stare, completely baffled by this bizarre display of solidarity. He crawls over, questioning what on earth his supposed guide is even doing. He calls out his cellmate's number, his voice laced with sudden panic. Dante's own exhaustion is forgotten, replaced by a look of genuine alarm. The prisoner's eyes are wide with agony, a single tear escaping from beneath his mask. He shakes the man's shoulders, desperately trying to get a response. Dante glances around at the desolate ruins, the silence suddenly feeling heavier. His voice drops to a whisper, begging the unconscious figure not to leave him alone. The desperation builds into a frantic roar as he tries to shake his guide back to life. As he screams, a tiny winged creature suddenly bursts from the prisoner's chest, and in its place, a massive shadowy beast slams down in front of him. Yet instead of terror, a strange, almost relieved smile spreads across Dante's face. A new figure emerges from the shadows, reaching a hand toward our terrified teacher. Dante's mind snaps back to reality, his relief replaced by pure, unadulterated confusion. The stranger gently touches his face, remarking that Dante seems like a normal person. Completely bewildered, Dante can only stammer a nervous apology. The man smiles, explaining that he heard the commotion and came to see what was wrong. The scene shifts to a grimy makeshift kitchen, a small pocket of civilization in the ruins. Dante hunches over a bowl, finally eating as he tears into a piece of bread. A voice gently chides him for eating so fast, a shockingly parental concern. His new hosts, a spiky-haired man and a blue-haired companion, assure him there's more. Overcome with gratitude, Dante thanks them, believing he's finally found normal people. The spiky-haired man introduces himself as Rambbiton, and his friend as Lychee. Dante introduces himself, relieved to finally have a normal conversation. He's even more surprised to see a woman among the prison's population. But Rambbiton playfully questions his assumption, leaving Dante confused. Lychee explains she cut her hair to avoid standing out in a place like Tofu Village. Rambbiton reveals they came from the inside, a place where the prison structure breaks down. He asks if the center is full of normal people, but learns Tofu Village is for outcasts. The conversation turns to the fog, with Rambbiton asking if Dante is new to it. Dante finally clarifies his situation, explaining that he's not actually an inmate. With a look of desperation, he admits the truth. He was kidnapped. Dante explains he was kidnapped by the very man now collapsed on the bed. Rambbiton can't believe it, questioning the logic of being kidnapped into Fogland. The horrifying truth dawns on them. He was the target of the teacher kidnapping operation. Our boy is completely lost, asking how they could possibly know about that. Rambbiton explains it was a well-known plot by the enforcers to secure the lesson for themselves. He's in awe of meeting the star of the show, but still cautiously asks if Dante is a spy. Lychee chimes in, noting that his cellmate doesn't seem like one of the enforcers. And so Dante reveals the absurd reason for his abduction, a lesson on growing sweet potatoes. The sheer ridiculousness of it all sends his new friends into a fit of uncontrollable laughter. Dante forces a smile through his tears, just relieved to find people who can still show sympathy. Lychee gently tells Rambbiton to stop, pointing out that his laughter is making Dante cry. Rambbiton asks if he's a captive, but Dante clarifies he's just traveling with a makeshift bodyguard. He explains that his guide didn't attack him, but simply collapsed from what he assumes was heat stroke. But Lychee corrects him, giving the condition a name that sends a chill down his spine: limbo. She explains that it's a type of withdrawal symptom, a craving for the one thing that runs this prison, the fog. She reminds him of the catatonic prisoners on the streets, all victims of the same affliction. While they can recover, repeated withdrawal will eventually cause their minds to completely decay. Dante finally asks the question that's been haunting him since the Chow Hall riot. What exactly is the fog? His new friends can only stare back in stunned silence, unable to believe his ignorance. A real fish out of water, this one. Dante's expression confirms it. He truly has no idea what kind of hell he stumbled into. Rambbiton explains that fog is a divine medicine, a substance that grants talent. It can awaken a hidden potential or give you a power you've always desired. Dante questions the possibility, but Rambbiton insists it lets you transcend human limits. He and Lychee stand together, declaring their plan to use this power to escape. The news leaves Dante completely stunned, the concept of escape suddenly real. Elsewhere, a new figure with a massive back tattoo stands in the shadows. His shadow falls across a desolate cell, his presence filling the empty room. He mutters to himself, convinced that his target couldn't have gotten far. He confirms his objective, certain that the teacher is still within his grasp. And in another part of the prison, a monster called the Bone Eater stands over its latest kill. Looks like the neighborhood is getting rough. Rambbiton explains that Tofu Village is ruled by 3 monstrous figures, starting with the one called Nun Face. The second is a hulking beast known as Fuzzyback, a master of the prison's crows. And the third is the terrifying Drillhead, a leader among the outcasts. These three are the undisputed kings of Tofu Village, the law in this lawless land. But Rambbiton and Lychee have a plan to use the fog's power to finally break free. The word escape hits Dante like a ton of bricks, a possibility he never dared to imagine. His new friends officially invite him to join their cause, offering him a way out. But just as hope begins to dawn, his overthinking mind kicks into high gear. He politely declines, insisting his first priority as a civilian is to find the guards. Bless his naive, rule-following heart. He knows that helping prisoners escape would make him a criminal, and that's a line he's not ready to cross. Rambbiton explains the brutal consequence of failure, a violent and permanent disappearance. Dante listens, understanding that if their escape plan fails, he'll simply cease to exist. No one from the outside, not even the authorities, will ever come looking for them. The truth sinks in. Fogland is a place the world has chosen to completely forget. Lychee then warns him about fog addiction, a fate that awaits anyone who missteps. Dante panics, insisting he'll never touch the stuff, certain he's immune to its effects. He's so close to getting it, yet so far. But Rambbiton tells him it's not a choice, asking if he's noticed the air itself. He reveals the horrifying truth. The mist covering this city is made of fog particles. Dante's world shatters as he realizes he's been breathing the drug this entire time. The fog, the very substance that grants impossible power, is in every breath he takes. Rambbiton explains that manifesting a talent requires a massive amount of fog, but he clarifies that addiction is a much simpler, more insidious process. The particles in the air are more than enough to get you hooked. With every breath, the substance seeps into your lungs, taking root in your body. It creates a constant, gnawing craving that drives people to madness, a hunger that can only be satisfied by consuming more and more fog. The horrifying realization finally hits Dante as he covers his mouth in shock. Rambbiton warns that without a steady supply, you'll eventually fall into limbo. Dante's voice trembles as he asks the inevitable question, is he already addicted? The answer is written all over his face. Our boy is well and truly screwed. Dante desperately tries to rationalize, insisting there must still be a chance for him. But Rambbiton explains that limbo is just the beginning of a much darker descent. He warns that while everyone's tolerance varies, the clock is ticking for all of them. Dante's voice cracks as he asks if escape is even possible, now that they're all addicted. Lychee's answer is blunt and brutal, confirming that yes, they are all completely screwed. She adds that in the history of this place, no one has ever been known to leave alive. Well, that's just fantastic news. But Dante's mind clings to logic, hoping an antidote could be made if the truth got out. Rambbiton and Lychee share a look, revealing a promise they made to each other. A vision of a future together, a life of freedom under a clear blue sky. Dante can only stare, realizing their bond and their hope are undeniably real. They embrace their shared dream of escape, a tangible, powerful force. But from the shadows of the bed, a pair of glowing eyes watches them. Dante's blood runs cold as he realizes their conversation wasn't private. His new friends freeze, their hopeful expressions replaced with fear. The masked prisoner slowly sits up, his presence filling the room with tension. Dante's mind races, realizing his sweet potato bargain is now completely useless. He weighs his options, wondering if this creature will turn on them for trying to leave. A flash of violence fills his mind, the memory of what this man is capable of. The prisoner rises from the bed, his movements slow and deliberate. But instead of violence, he just holds up a sweet potato, asking if it's safe to go. Priorities, I guess. Lychee calls out to Dante, noticing his sudden, overwhelming fear. She calmly asks why he's so scared, completely underestimating the man before them. Rambbiton dismisses the prisoner as a harmless fog zombie, useless until his next fix. Relieved, Dante offers to handle the situation himself, trying to protect his new friends. But the prisoner's arm suddenly bulges with an impossible, terrifying strength. He grabs Rambbiton by the throat, casually asking if he should just kill him now. His eyes glow with cold fury, a silent promise of absolute violence. Rambbiton can only stare back, his confidence shattered by the raw power on display. Dante realizes his new friends have made a catastrophic miscalculation. He rushes in, grabbing his cellmate's arm and desperately begging him to stop. Dante quickly intervenes, assuring his cellmate there's no need for murder. With the situation defused, he announces to everyone that he's leaving. He tells his cellmate their partnership is over and it's time to part ways. But the prisoner's only concern is the forgotten sweet potato lesson. Priorities, man. Seeing an opportunity, Dante takes the sweet potato from his hand. He instructs Lychee to fill a cup with water, preparing for his final lecture. He places the vegetable in the water, presenting it with a teacher's authority. He explains the simple process, adding that it will need plenty of sunlight. Dante pats his cellmate's back, urging him to take his new friend outside. But the prisoner admits he doesn't know the way, and Dante confesses he doesn't either. Dante panics, yelling at Rambbiton to get rid of his cellmate so he can join their escape. Lychee and Rambbiton share a look of grim resolve, ready to face any danger together. In the chaos, the sweet potato and the glass of water are knocked to the ground. The lesson lies abandoned, a puddle of water spreading across the cracked floor. But Rambbiton suddenly collapses, falling face first onto the cold concrete. He slowly lifts his head, his expression not of pain, but of quiet contemplation. The camera lingers on the fallen sweet potato, now looking like a tragic victim in all this. A blue light flares in Rambbiton's eye, the unmistakable energy of the fog. A memory flashes back, showing him and Lychee watching a static-filled television. Lychee explains that cats and dogs are animals, just like the crows they see every day. She describes them as fluffy, cute creatures that understand commands and come when called. A younger Rambbiton listens, his heart set on one day raising a puppy of his own. He promises himself he'll get one someday, once he finally makes it to the outside. Back in the present, he reaches for the fallen sweet potato, a symbol of a much smaller dream. With a whisper, he commands the vegetable to come to him, just like a loyal pet. Elsewhere, a ruler is held up, measuring a distance of exactly 20 centimeters. 2 new prisoners confirm the measurement, shocked that Rambbiton's power actually worked. But their experiment is interrupted by the sight of a brutalized figure nearby. A hulking monster holds up the body, a grim warning for anyone else who tries to escape. Looks like the neighborhood watch is a bit intense.